Good morning. So in our previous session we solved some problems considering to gravity model. The next topic in the fourth module, that is the modal split. That is modal split. See, the modal split is the process of separating the person trips by the mode of travel. Okay, it is the process of separating the person trips by the mode of travel. See, it is usually expressed in fraction or percentage or ratio considering the total number of trips. It is usually expressed in percentage or ratio or fraction by considering the total number of trips. So, in general, the modal split refers to the, modal split refers to the trips made by the private vehicles, made by the private cars as opposed to the public transport. We know the public transport are the rails, metro or urban rails or monorails. Okay, it is opposite to the, means as opposed by the private vehicle user to the public transport, because as we know the private vehicles will give more comfort and pleasure with convenience. Okay. Next, see, an understanding of modal split is very important for the transportation studies, for further studies. So, we have to consider this modal split in the transportation study. See, further transportation pattern can only be accurately forecast if the mode of choice of the behavior of the traveler is known. Okay, we have to know the behavior of the traveler to plan for the future, which mode the traveler may use in future. So, we have to give importance to study about the modal split. There are various factors that governs the individual choice, which governs the individual choice of mode, which are very complex to know, which are very difficult to predict. These are the factors which are considered. The factors affecting the modal split. That is the first factor, that is the characteristics of the trip. Secondly, household characteristics. Next, that is the zonal characteristics. Lastly, it is network characteristics. These are the four characteristics which affects the modal split. First characteristics, that is the characteristics of the trip. It depends upon the trip purpose and the trip length. As we know, for every trip there will be some purpose. Based purpose, we are going to choose our mode of travel, whether to use private vehicle or public transport. For example, if you consider the trip purpose, see the choice of mode, the choice of mode is guided to a certain extent by the trip purpose. The choice of mode to a certain extent, it is governed by the trip purpose. For example, if you consider, see the home based school trips, they have a high rate of usage of the public transport. As we know, the school going children, they prefer the public transport, school buses, college buses. If you consider the home based shopping journeys, they have high rate of private car usage because of more comfort and convenience. Convenience, our convenient koskara, we are going to use the private vehicle or private car because we have more comfort. For shopping, for our personalized trips, we are going to use the private vehicles or private cars. Next, that is the trip length. See, the trip length will be governed by an individual choice of particular mode. It will be governing of the individual choice of particular mode, and it is also measured by the travel time and the travel cost. If the travel time is more, if due to the traffic, if you consider any metropolitan city, for example Bangalore, if you want to travel 5 to 10 kilometers in Bangalore, it will be very difficult in case of private vehicle. At that time they may prefer the, now we have a metro takes less time, urban rail or monorail, this takes less time. Otherwise, if you have a, if you doesn't have a metro or monorail, at that time we have to depend on the public transport only, that is buses. Bus may take more time, due to the congestion. At that time we may prefer the private vehicle. It depends upon the user. It depends upon the user, that depend upon the travel time and the travel cost. If the cost is more, at that time they may prefer the public transport. If our income is less, at that time we are going to prefer public transport. If our income is high, at that time we are going to do the trips by using our private own vehicle. Next characteristic, that is the household characteristics. Here we will come across the income, car ownership and family size and its composition. First, income. See, as we know, income is the direct determinant of the person is prepared to incur for the journey, is ready to invest on the journey. As the income increases, his ability to purchase and maintain private car will also increases. Okay, if we have more income, at that time we are going to make private, means we are going to use the private vehicle for our trips. Okay, and it increases our ability to pay. As the income increases, our ability to purchase and maintain the car also increases, and we make more number of trips. Okay, when we have our own private vehicle, at that time we are going to make frequently, means frequent trips will be more. Next, that is the car ownership. It is determine the income. As we know, the income and the car ownership are interrelated, directly proportional. Okay, as income increases, there will be a car, means ability to purchase and maintain will be there. Okay, if our income is more, at that time we are going to purchase our own vehicle, that is maybe the private car. They are interrelated. Okay, they are interrelated. The family which owns a car, they make more number of trips than the family which doesn't have a car. Okay, the family which has more income, they will have a private car and they make more number of trips. Okay, means, and also they use the private vehicle. The family which doesn't have a car, they make use of the public transport. Okay, family yaratra car illa, they make use of the public transport. Their mode of choice will be the public transport. That may be the bus or metro or monorail. The family which have a car, they make they use their own private vehicle for their trips. Next, that is the household structure. See, the number of persons in the family, the number of school going children, the number of wage earners, means employed members in the family. If both are working, husband and wife, means parents, okay, father and the mother, the number of unemployed, okay, the age, sex structure of the family, this all will be considered. Okay, on this the mode of choice will depend. As we know, the school going children are infants, they depend upon the public transport, and also old age, elder ones, they also, means grandparents, they also depends upon the public transport. They doesn't like to drive. Okay, and also school going children are infants. Okay, they also prefer the public transport. And next, okay, if you consider the unemployed, due to the less income, they also prefer to have public transport for their trips. Okay, wage earner will be the father, is the head of the family. As we know, head of the family will have his own vehicle. He uses the private vehicle for his trips. Okay, other members in the family, they use the public transport. Okay, and they use to walk. Okay, they used to do walk with their friends. Next characteristic, that is the zonal characteristics. Under this we have a residential density, concentration of workers, distance of CBD, that is the central business districts. See, residential density. See, the usage of public transport increases as the residential density increases. Where the residential density will be more, where the low income group will be inhabited. Okay, their income will be low and they prefer to make use of public transport for their trips. Okay, they make use of public transport. Okay, highest residential density will be inhabited. As I told, it will be inhabited by the low income groups, means low income persons. Okay, there. Okay, lower level of private car ownership. As the income is low, there will be a lower level of car ownership, means there lower level of private car ownership. As we know, the income is low, so there will be lower level of private car or private vehicle ownership, and it is well served by the public transport. As we know, their income is low. Okay, the people who are inhabited in this, means in where the residential density high, the income will be low, and that area will be well served by the public transport, because there will be more demand for the public transport usage. So it will be well supported by the public transport. Next, concentration of workers. If you consider where the concentration of workers will be more, that is in case of industrial areas, that may be industrial area Pune, industrial area in Bangalore, or Hebbal in Mysore, or Bemal, HAL. Okay, there the movement will be by using the public transport, and also distance from the central business districts. Okay, see, the central business district will be well connected by the public transport. Okay, central business district means where the business will be more in the city, that is the central business district. It will be well connected by the good public transport. It will be there the trips will be made by the public transport than the private vehicles. Last factor, that is the zonal characteristics. Here we are going to consider the accessibility ratio, travel time ratio and travel cost ratio. Firstly, that is the accessibility ratio. See, it is the measure of the relative accessibility of that zones to all other zones by means of mass transit and highway network. See, if you have a good mass transit means, as we know, that is the monorail or metro. At that time we are going to prefer the public transport. Okay, if you doesn't have a good mass transit, at that time we are going to prefer the highway network, means road, okay, vehicles, private vehicles will be used. That depends upon the efficiency of the mass transit. Next, travel time ratio. Okay, the ratio of the travel time by public transport and travel time by private car gives the measure of attractiveness. Okay, if the time takes more in case of public transport, at that time we are going to prefer the private car for our trips. Okay, see, it is the opposite to the public transport. See, the travel time ratio can be measured by considering this. See, the travel time by public transport system itself composed of, okay, when we use the public transport, okay, the time taken, okay, we are going to consider the total time to travel from origin to destination. Firstly, see, the time spent walking to public transport vehicle to origin. From our origin, we are going to reach, means we have to walk to public transportation terminal, station, athwa generally we will call metro station or bus stand. Okay, we have to consider that time, origin, from origin point to terminal station. Next, secondly, see, the time spent for waiting for the vehicle, that may be metro or bus. Okay, we have to wait in the terminal station for the vehicle. Next, time spent on the public transport vehicle, okay, during traveling. Okay, during traveling we have to spend some time. Okay, next, that is the time spent in transfer from one public transport to another. If you are traveling from one zone to another zone, sometimes you have to change one vehicle to another vehicle. That may be from one bus to another bus, athwa one route in the innond route. Okay, that may be metro. Okay, from one zone to another zone go back. Okay, you have to change the vehicle. Okay, again it takes some more time. Lastly, the time spent walking from the public transport vehicle, okay, from that to destination, to reach your destination, again you have to walk. See, this all total time will be considered in the public transport system. It takes more time when compared to private vehicle. Okay, in case of private vehicle, see here, see, the travel time by private car is composed of, okay, here in this we are going to consider only the time spent during the driving the car, and next, time spent for parking the vehicle or car. Next, to reach the destination from parking to our end point, that is the destination, the time taken is less when compared to public transport. So, it has more attraction than the public transport. Okay. See, it is in general found that as the travel time ratio increases, the usage of public transportation system decreases. Okay, the usage of public transportation system decreases as the time increases. This decreases the usage of public transportation system. If we provide efficient public transport system, at that time we are going to prefer the public transport system. If you provide the metro or monorail, which takes less time, there will be no any congestion. Okay, there will be no any stoppages. So, at that time the time taken will be less. At that time we may prefer the public transport system. Okay, it depends upon the usage, means it depends upon the traveler comfort. Lastly, that is the travel cost ratio. See, the ratio of cost of travel by public transport and the cost of travel by car is one of the most important factor that influence the mode of choice. That depends upon the traveler choice. Okay, depends upon his economic status, or unmindful for cost or prestigious issue for the traveler. It depends upon his convenience and comfort. Okay, it depends upon the traveler. Next, that is the modal split in the transport planning process. See, the modal split is considered in the transport planning at various stages. Okay, basically two variations are possible. One, firstly, that is the pre-distribution modal split. Secondly, that is the post-distribution modal split. First, that is the pre-distribution modal split, in which the modal split is considered prior to trip distribution. This procedure is also known as trip end modal split procedure. Trip end modal split procedure. Second, that is the post-modal split, is in which the modal split is considered after trip distribution. Okay, the second stage will be considered after trip distribution stage. This procedure is also known as trip interchange modal split procedure. Okay, this procedure is also known as trip interchange modal split procedure. Next, in the pre-distribution modal split procedure, there are again two possibilities. Okay, at the first one, that is at the trip generation stage itself. Second, that is the after trip generation but before the trip distribution. We have two stages again here. Okay, one is at the trip generation stage itself, another one is the after trip generation but before the trip distribution stage. Okay, at the trip generation stage itself, here it is necessary to generate separate multilinear regression equation for each mode of transport vehicle. Okay, for each mode. Okay, separately for private vehicle and public transport, separately for metro, urban line, urban rail, monorail. Okay, and again in private vehicle, car, bikes, we have to generate separate multilinear regression for each mode of transport. Okay, nextly, the factors that are normally considered to influence the mode of choice in this type of procedure are the car ownership, residential density, density of the zone of origin from the central business district, and relatively accessibility of the zone of the origin to the transport facilities. Okay, the factors that are normally considered to influence the modal choice in this type of procedure are the car ownership, residential density, distance of the zone of the origin from the central business district, and relative accessibility to the zone of the origin to the transport facilities. These are the factors which are considered to generate the trip generation equation, that is the multilinear regression equation. To generate the MLR, multilinear regression equation, these are the factors. These factors will be considered, and this multilinear regression will be separately generated for each mode of travel, that is for the private vehicle and the public transport. Next stage, that is after trip generation but before trip distribution. See, the trip generations are calculated on the assumption that the mode of choice has no influence on the trip generation. Here in this case, the mode of choice of travel has no influence on the trip generation. See, after thus determining the total trip production and attraction, these trips are allocated to public transport trips and private vehicle trips. Okay, after coming to know about the total productions and attraction, we are going to separate it. Okay, we are going to allocate it to the public transport system and private vehicle usage. Okay, private vehicle or private car, by considering the relative attractiveness, of each mode measured by variable factors. Okay, variable factors that governs the modal split. Then the trips will be distributed. Okay, then the distribution is carried out. Next, that is the flow diagram for modal split, which is carried out between the trip generation and the trip distribution. This is the flow diagram, okay, for the modal split, which is carried out between the trip generation and the trip distribution. Okay, if we consider any study area, first we have to study the public transport system characteristics. Existing public transport system efficiency should be studied. Next, land use characteristics. We have to study about the land use characteristics. For what all purpose the land has been used. Okay, what is the percentage of land has been used for the residence, okay, residential area, commercial area, industries. Okay, like this we have to collect the data, because this generates the trips. Okay, then by using these trips we are going to split the mode of choice, whether the traveler is using the public transport or private vehicle. Next, we have to collect the data regarding the socio-economic characteristics. In this, we are going to collect the data, number of schools, number of institution buildings, that may be hospital, banks, like this we have to collect the data. Lastly, that is the highway characteristics, highway network. We have to collect the data regarding the roads. Okay, the level of service of the road. If the level of service of the road is high, the efficiency will be high. If the level of, if the road, if it is full of potholes or undulation, at that time the level of service of road decreases. Okay, we have to collect the data regarding highway network also. Next, we are going to collect the data regarding the trip generation. Due to the land use and the socio-economic characteristics, the trips will be generated. After trip generation, we are going to split the mode. Okay, modal split will be carried out. Okay, mode of choice will be determined. Okay, in that modal split. Okay, public transport trip distribution. Okay, what is the percentage of traveler? Okay, ಎಷ್ಟು ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಕಾರ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, ದಿಸ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ trip distribution will be assigned with the separate traffic assignment, or separate route will be assigned for this public transport. Okay, similarly separate route will be assigned for the private vehicles. Okay, highway traffic assignment, separate traffic route will be assigned. Okay, like this we are going to split the modal choice. Okay, in the first case, that is between the trip generation and the trip distribution. Next, that is the post distribution model. As the name indicates, it will be carried out after trip distribution but before trip assignment, before assigning the route or traffic assignment. See, in this procedure, the zone to zone home based trips are known. Zone to zone home based trips are known. Using this as input, the procedure determines the zone to zone public transport travelers on the basis of variables. Okay, that variables are the travel time or travel cost. By using these variables, we are going to determine the zone to zone public transport trips or travelers. Okay, next, what we are going to do, from zone to zone home based trips, we are going to deduct this zone to zone public transport trips. Okay, we are going to deduct the zone to zone public transport trips. By deducting this, we are going to get, okay, percent trips made by the motor vehicles. Okay, the trips made by the private vehicles. Okay, then we will get the mode of choice preferred by the traveler. Okay, first we are going to consider the total trips. Okay, home to home or zone to zone home based trips will be known by that. Okay, we are going to, by using some parameters, variable parameters, we are going to find the, or we are going to determine the zone to zone public transport trips or travelers. We are going to deduct this zone to zone public traveler or trips from the total zone to zone home based trips. By this, by deducting this, we are going to get the percent trips made by the private vehicles or motor vehicles. We are going to derive like this the mode of choice by the traveler. See, this is the flow diagram for modal split which is carried out after trip distribution but before trip assignment. Okay, similar to previous flow diagram, here also we are going to collect the public transport system data. Okay, nextly land use characteristic data will be collected. Next, socio-economic characteristics data will be collected. Highway network characteristics data will be collected. Next, that total trip generation data will be there with us. Okay, it will be collected. By this, the total percent trip distribution, okay, zone to zone home based trips will be known. Okay, as we have told in our previous slide. Okay, zone to zone home based trips will be known. In this, we are going to deduct or subtract the zone to zone public transport trips or travelers trips will be deducted. By deducting that, we are going to get zone to zone private car trips. Okay, by deducting that, we are going to get zone to zone private car trips. Then for each mode, separate traffic assignment will be done, means separate route will be assigned for both, means for public transport separate route will be assigned. Similarly for private vehicle, separate network, means separate traffic assignment will be, separate route will be assigned.